In this video, we will explore the amateur radio digital modes JT65 and JT9 using the Windows application WSJT-X. Let's start with some general information about these modes. First, they are not for rag chewing or roundtable conversations. They have their origins in weak signal modes designed for moon-bounce QSOs, in which the two stations were grateful for the ability to exchange a minimum of information like call signs and signal strengths. They have evolved into digital protocols proven effective for worldwide QRP, or low-power, communications on the high-frequency bands. Low power can be expanded to include stations with compromised antennas that may be limited by space or other restrictions. There are a number of JT65 modes and a variation called JT4 designed for the microwave bands, but the versions normally used in the amateur HF bands are JT65A and JT9. The first four letters of the application WSJT-X stands for Weak Signal Communications by Joe Taylor, also known as K1JT. Joe Taylor won the 1993 Nobel Prize in Physics for his studies in binary pulsars, and he is now a professor emeritus from Princeton University. So, how does JT65 work? Take a deep breath, and here we go. JT65 uses 60-second transmit-receive sequences that have carefully structured messages with a maximum of 13 characters. A Reed-Solomon error-correcting code converts these characters into 63 6-bit symbols. Tight synchronization of time and frequency between transmitting and receiving stations is required. Each transmission is divided into 126 tone intervals with a length of 0.372 seconds. Within each interval, a constant amplitude sinusoid of one of 65 predefined frequencies is sent. A transmission begins at t equals 1 second after the start of a coordinated universal time minute and finishes at t equals 47.8 seconds. The frequency spacing between tones is 2.69 Hertz, and the signal occupies a bandwidth of 177.6 Hertz. At the end of a reception sequence, which is approximately 50 seconds, into the coordinated universal time minute, the received data samples are forwarded to the decoder. At the end of the minute, the receiving station switches to the transmitting mode and the cycle begins again. JT9 is similar to JT65, but crammed into a bandwidth of only 15.6 Hertz, or about 11 times narrower in width compared to JT65A. So if you've been holding your breath, you can breathe again, because you're not going to have to know most of this information to have a lot of fun with JT65 and JT9. You know, all this information sounds really complicated, and it is, but these complicated details are mostly under the hood of the WSJT-X application. The user doesn't need to worry about them, but can just sit back and appreciate the wizardry that Professor Taylor and his associates have put into this ham radio application. Now to the software. Here is a link to the WSJT-X application. https://physics.princeton.edu/pulsar/K1JT/WSJTX.html. Boy, that's a mouthful. Installation is straightforward, And if you can operate PSK31 or FL-Digi, you can operate WSJT-X. Another topic that may be important to your system is NTP. NTP stands for Network Time Protocol and stands for a networking protocol intended to synchronize a computer to within a few milliseconds of Coordinated Universal Time. Being synchronized with Coordinated Universal Time is important for JT65 and JT9 because of the relatively precise way that times and frequencies are used in these modes. Windows has provisions to synchronize your computer to NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, formerly called the Bureau of Standards. This is activated by navigating to the control panel, selecting date and time, and choosing Internet time. This may not reliably maintain sync to better than a range of 1 to 2 seconds, and it may be necessary to install a better NTP implementation such as Meinberg. Here is a link to the Meinberg software. The last application we want to discuss is called JT Alert. This is called a helper application for WSJT-X and provides audio and visual alerts for CQs and stations in wanted U.S. states and DXCC countries. Ham Apps also provides a call sign database that flags stations using EQSL and Logbook of the World. It can also do automatic logging to several logging programs. The link to JT Alert is http://hamapps.com. Let's take a look at the lay of the land for WSJT-X and JT Alert. The setup screens for WSJT-X are very similar to other sound card digital modes and must be tailored to your radio and your sound card interface. You'll need to identify sound card input and output and provide a method for keying the push-to-talk, either through radio CAT commands, CAT commands, a serial port, or Vox. If you can run PSK with your equipment, you can run WSJT-X. I would add that upper sideband is used and any audio processing should be disabled. This little window in the upper right corner is the Commander module from the DX Lab suite of programs and has no role in the operation of JT65 or JT9, so we can just ignore it for the rest of this video. So let's work our way through all the details in this screen. These two windows are WSJT-X. The lower window shows audio frequency from left to right, and there is a waterfall display at the top. The waterfall is divided into horizontal segments representing the received signals during a 1-minute time period. The lower section is a spectrum display showing amplitude versus audio frequency. WSJT can be configured for either JT65 or JT9 or both of these modes at the same time. These two modes customarily use different 2 kHz sub-frequency bands. For example, on 20 meters, JT65 would start at 14.076 MHz and JT9 starts at 14.078 MHz. If your radio limits the audio bandwidth to something like 2.5 or 2.7 kHz, you will need to change frequency when switching between modes. However, if you can open the audio bandwidth up to at least 4 kHz, you can choose the JT9 plus JT65 operation of WSJT-X. This is the situation shown here and in the rest of this video. The red bracket shows the transmit frequency for JT65, and the green bracket shows the receive frequency. At this point, both the receive and transmit are locked to the same frequencies, which is the normal condition. The upper window has two sections showing decoded transmissions. The left section is labeled band activity and shows all the decoded signals in the full audio bandwidth. The right section is labeled RX frequency and is just the decoded signal at the location of the red bracket. UTC is the coordinated universal time of the decoding period. dB is the signal strength of the sending station measured in signal-to-noise ratio in decibels. dt is the signal's time offset in seconds from your computer. Frequency is the audio frequency of the received signal. The next column shows the received mode. The hashtag or # means JT65, and an @ sign means JT9. Finally, we see the decoded message. The RX frequency panel can be cleared by clicking on the Erase button, and the band activity panel can be cleared by double-clicking on the Erase button. This meter shows the audio level from the sound card, which can be controlled by the blue slider at the right. The green indicator shows whether you are in the receive or transmit mode, and a progress indicator shows the current time in the 1-minute cycle. The current UTC time is shown here. The yellow area is a reminder that WSJT-X is configured for the JT9 plus JT65. The blue separator stroke at 2500 Hz divides JT65 and JT9 operation. All signals below 2500 Hz will normally be decoded as JT65, and above 2500 will normally be decoded as JT9. The frequency separating the two modes can be adjusted using the small up and down arrows in this box. Standard messages for calling CQ or answering a CQ are shown in this area and can be selected by clicking in the appropriate area. This may be a little clearer when we see an actual QSO later in the video. This checkbox controls whether you transmit in even or odd minutes and will be automatically set if you are answering a CQ. This button toggles between the JT65 and JT9 modes. The TX and RX brackets above the waterfall will change width as the mode changes and will automatically adjust when responding to a station calling CQ. The colors are significant and indicate several situations shown in the Colors tab in the Settings window. The pink highlighting means you have not previously worked this station. WSJT-X knows whether you have contacted this station before because it maintains a basic logging facility that records QSO information. If a station calls your station, the entry will be highlighted in red. You can redefine these colors if you choose. Now a few points about JT Alert, which is seen in these two windows. The tall, skinny window attaches itself to WSJT-X and offers a collection of messages that you can use and modify. The main window is located here and provides a number of audio and visual alerts. JT Alert maintains two databases that can be downloaded. One is a call sign database, and the second is a database of sounds that can be used by the application. At approximately 53 seconds into the minute, when the WSJT-X decoding engine has interpreted the message, JT Alert presents the active call signs in the upper part of the window. Several pieces of information are available. First, stations calling CQ or QRZ are highlighted in green. If the station uses Logbook of the World, there is a small vertical line at the left-hand side of the call. If the station uses EQSL, there is a small bar at the right-hand side of the call. If a call sign appears that you have previously worked in the current band, it will be highlighted in blue with a B4 after the call sign. At the bottom of the window, one can use the pull-down menu to select and track DXCC countries or worked all states by band and mode. Okay, it's time to look at a JT65 Qso. There are a number of things happening fairly quickly, so let's go over what you will see. The video clip begins at 39 seconds into the minute cycle. The waterfall and spectrum displays are recording activity across the 4 kHz audio range. Transmission will stop at approximately 48 seconds, and at 51 seconds the WSJT-X decoders have shown all the messages in the band activity panel. A CQ from KI4KWR is shown with a pink band. The decoded stations are shown in JT Alert at 52 seconds, and we will hear the audio alert from JT Alert saying CQ. At 57 seconds, the cursor moves to the KI4KWR call sign in the band activity panel, followed by a double click. Now several things happen automatically. 1. The audio frequency of the red and green brackets above the waterfall changed to that of the KI4KWR station. 2. A copy of the CQ KI4KWR message is copied to the RX frequency panel. 3. The signal report of KI4WKR is recorded at -10 decibels. 4. The message to be transmitted is set to KI4KWR W4BGH EL87. 5. The Enable TX button is enabled with the color changing to red. And finally, the correct even or odd minute selection is made to be compatible with the CQ station. At the start of the next minute, the green receiving reminder in the lower left switches to yellow, showing the message to be transmitted, and at 1 second, push to talk is activated and the transmission begins. So here we go.
CQ.
You can see Ki4KWR's signal in both the waterfall and the spectrum window. The received message is red colored because it contains my call sign, and in this case ends with a -09, which is my signal report. I select my response by clicking on the button shown in the red ellipse. My response ends with R-10, which was saved by WSJT-X and is my signal report to Ki4KWR. We now wait for Ki4KWR to respond. You can see Ki4KWR's signal in both the waterfall and the spectrum window. Ki4KWR's response is again red colored because it contains my call sign, and in this case ends with the letters RRR. This confirms his receipt of my call sign and signal report, which are the necessary elements of an official QSO. I next select a transmit message containing a 73 shown in the red oval.
CQ.
As soon as the 73 transmission begins, JT Alert opens a small window preparing to enter the QSO in my log, which is the DX Keeper module in the DX Lab suite of programs. I click OK. Finally, JT Alert reports that my log has been updated, and once again I click OK. KI4KWR sends a message ending with a 73, and the
CQ.
QSO is complete. Now we're going to watch a JT9 QSO. The JT65 Qso we just saw was paused several times to insert information. We'll let events proceed in real time for this QSO. The clock starts at 43 seconds into the 1-minute cycle and will respond to a CQ by PA3AIN in the Netherlands. So here we go.
CQ.
Note that the different tones in the JT9 transmission are barely discernible, and remember the bandwidth of the JT9 signal is much less than its JT65 equivalent. We can see PA3AIN's signal here in the waterfall and the spectrum window.
CQ.
You might also note all the DX stations shown in both the band activity and JT alert windows this day on 17 meters. We see the Czech Republic, England, Brazil, Italy, Belgium, Greece, and Germany in addition to the Netherlands. I might add that both the JT65 and JT9 QSOs were made with just 20 watts and dipole antennas. By the way, JT Alert is showing that this QSO with PA3AIN is a new band, meaning that we have worked each other before, but this is the first time on 17 meters.
CQ.
We can see PA3AIN's signal here in the waterfall and the spectrum window. We haven't covered how to send CQ using WSJT-X, but it's very similar to what we've seen. Let's go through the steps and watch the beginning of a QSO where we call CQ. First, we choose whether to use JT65 or JT9 by using this button to toggle between modes. We choose JT65. Next, we click in the audio frequency scale to select the frequency we want to use. We'll be using the messages selected from the small Calling CQ panel, and we now click on the CQ message. Now we'll need to choose whether to use the even or odd minutes for our CQ transmission, and in fact the rest of the transmissions in this QSO. Normally we would choose the opposite from the current time. That is, if the time is currently in an odd minute, choose the even minutes for our transmissions. We leave the box unchecked to choose odd minutes. Next, click on the Enable TX button. Transmissions will start automatically when the next minute begins. PA3 CPS responds to RCQ, and a red-colored event appears in the band activity and RX frequency panels with our call sign.
CQ.
So we double-click on the PA3 CPS's call sign, and our next transmission will include his signal report. Let's quickly summarize what we've seen in this video. JT65 and JT9 are sound card modes that are useful for QRP or low power contacts in the amateur radio HF bands. These modes had their origin in Earth-Moon bounce experiments that were created by Joe Taylor, K1JT. These modes are not for rag chewing contacts, and the messages exchanged between stations are limited to 13 characters, which are heavily processed by Reed-Solomon error-correcting codes. The primary Windows PC application used with JT65 and JT9 is called WSJT-X. And there is an associated program called JT Alert that provides a number of audio and graphic alerts.